Josh.
I'm Josh.
And I'm not Josh. But together, we're
Joshing around in air. That was way better than it should have been.
I just still felt pretty bad.
Amazing.
I think we pulled it off.
Yeah, me too. Positive mental attitude. Right. What's your name? We already know what your name is. And perhaps what you like about Conquest and what makes it different to other war games, other tabletop stuff. So I think for me, I do love Conquest. I think we've all been playing it it's for how many years now? Maybe 2?
At least
2 and a bit?
Yeah.
Okay. And it actually came out of us playing Gorkamorka, right? So we were kind of coming over every now and then to, clash our squads of orc boys and have a great time around that. That was very wonderful. And so, actually, I thought you might want to say something on this, but I remember you finding some, Facebook ads or something, and you just kept getting given the same ad. And that's how we ended up kind of playing this game.
Yeah. I'm not the guy who ends up doom scrolling Facebook Marketplace just looking at miniatures that are for sale, just dreaming about filling up the plastic crack in my cupboard.
Amazing.
No, it's on Instagram more than Facebook, really, that I'm doing that. But scrolling through Facebook and just this mountain of miniatures just appeared in front of me. And the thing that caught my eye was just horse after horse after horse.
Yes.
And I remember just thinking, as a kid, I had a bunch of horses from a game called Battle Masters, I think.
Oh, okay.
Back in the day, before you were born, I'm sure. But I remember enjoying the look of the horses and then seeing them in this Facebook ad. And it was a really good deal. I can't remember exactly what you got, but you got, 2 really solid starting armies, 100 Kingdoms and Spires. And it just seemed like a really great deal just to get a whole bunch of models. And so I thought, I'm going to get those just so I can paint them, because that would be a laugh. And obviously we were playing Gorkamorka, tiny little skirmish game, 6 or 7 models in an army. That's enough. So then to be presented with, I think you got like 100 miniatures or something in this deal.
Yes.
Seemed like a really good way to pad out the collection and start something different. The style of play in Conquest as opposed to anything in the 40k universe is really different. There's a lot more strategy goes in it, especially Gorkamorka, which is just chaos, isn't it? Attack the nearest thing. God no, it's just roll dice, missing all the time.
I think my favourite rule that we played a game really not too recently, but like maybe a few months ago again, like a little reminiscent game. But I remember one of my favourite rules of Gorkamorka was that if one of your guys fell off a truck, like literally if one of the models fell off the truck, you had to roll to see if it took a wound. I was just like, that is so brilliant. And that just embodies what Gorkamorka is. And
it does. And do you know, I only discovered recently that rule is apocryphal. It doesn't appear in the rule book, but has sort of entered the Gorkamorka community and then has just been accepted. Yeah. Just by osmosis. I didn't even realise. I just kind of accepted how this is a rule, and everyone else did. Yeah. But no, there you go.
Mate.
I mean, my favourite thing, Gorkamorka, was Sam building a squad of guys and naming one of them stupid. And then in the first battle we had, I shot Sam's character, and at the end you got to roll to see what wounds they get. And he rolled, and he got shot in the head, and it was a head wound. And the thing he had for the rest of the kind of campaign was stupidity. And at the start of every battle, he had to roll dice to see how he'd react in that instance.
I think that was really annoying because he picked up 2 wounds in the first 2 games that he played. One of them made him this absolute monster. Like he could headbutt or something like this, which would knock out any character he came into hand-to-hand combat with. And the other rule then was he sometimes gets a bit confused, and so at the beginning he might just not play.
Amazing. Oh man. Yeah. I'd love to spend the next 20 minutes talking about
Actually, all the thing that we're here to talk about.
We should probably move on to Conquest. So yeah, I think actually a good way to warm this up. We were talking earlier, weren't we? In our recent games of Conquest, the last argument of Kings, not First Blood, because I don't think anyone plays that.
Not in West London, they don't.
Yeah, sorry, not in West London, they don't. I'm sure they play it all over the world. Just tell me about some bad dice rolls. I think I'm happy to start off. I had a game against Josh, the other Josh. I was playing 100 Kingdoms, and Josh was playing. You were playing Old Dominion, weren't you?
Yeah.
And you already know the story. And I had a big block of, I think it must have been 6 Household Guard, and they went in to clash against some, like, I don't know, some Legionnaires or something.
Yeah, it was your Household Knights, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's my Household Guard. Yeah, no, this was. Oh, now I'm talking about the other one, which has actually ended up being quite a good roll. But no, I'm talking about the Household Guard one, where I rolled 26 dice because they had support 3, so they were just like rolling all manner of dice. Actually, I think it might have been up in the 30s. But so I rolled this massive brick of dice, what it felt like in my hand, and out of 26, I rolled, I think 10 or 11 6s, and I was just like, wow, this feels awful. And bearing in mind, I was clashing on 4s as well, so I should have been getting more than half. So I remember I had this rule where I had him as my warlord, and thank goodness I could re-roll my 6s. So that came in real clutch. So it was a bad dice roll, but fortunately the mechanics of the game saved my behind once again.
Yeah, I remember I had such joy, and then watching you re-roll all those 6s, it quickly dissipated. But
anything that has got a re-roll is the worst thing to be on the receiving end of it. I'm so fed up with Blessed.
Yeah.
Josh, your use of Blessed. And when you're defending as the fallen divinity, and I sense something ploughing into you, and you bounce, the first half bounce off anyway, and I think, at least I get some in. And then you just merrily pick everything else up and roll it again. And it's like, one wound comes in, and I ignore that wound because it's a magic rule that no one else understands. When it checks out on the Discord.
Oh, man.
Well, Bless doesn't always work out, because my worst roll of recent was at LGT, where I got charged in the side, and I was like, this is the time to use my Blessed. I took 7 hits in the side. I was defending on 3s. I failed all 7. I was like, thank goodness I said I'd use Blessed. And I roll all 7 and fail them all again.
No.
Which was like the one time I needed Blessed to save me, so that I didn't have to re-roll all my resolves, and it let me down. And that hurt bad.
That is gutting. That is absolutely gutting.
So what's interesting about this is that you asked us for an example of a bad dice roll, and I feel like I have such poor dice rolls as standard. The exception in my head are when it actually works.
Yes.
So when I was at LGT, there was one dice roll that I just thought, I know this is stupid. I wrestled with it in my mind for quite a while. I bet I was doing the other guy's nutting, but with me just thinking, should I do this? I used Unstable Enhancement on turn 2 to try to send my High Clone Executor as far forward as possible to sit over the top of an objective to stop him from getting in.
Yeah.
And I lost 1 model.
Oh.
And that was on a block of 8 Force-Grown drones.
Yeah.
And for the benefit, I know there might be some listeners who don't know what that does. Unstable Enhancement will cause me to roll 3 dice per stand. So on a block of 8, that's 24 dice, and all 5s and 6s cause a wound.
Yeah, that's the K special rule, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was super happy for me.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a sort of a brotherhood amongst Spires players in which you will have that moment where you break your own regiment by just decaying yourself.
I think. So I was thinking about this. I think it's important as a Spires player to just embrace that.
Yeah.
Like, I think when you step into the mindset of whether it's the Biomancer or the High Clone Executor, they've got different sort of approaches to that, but where you just think, I think it's time to cause a catalytic rupture. And I know that it's going to wipe out my own unit. And I'm going to take pleasure.
Hey, look, it happens at the end of the activation, okay? So it's fine.
It's, there's you've got to be a little bit sadistic and sadomasochistic, I suppose, is the right term to be a true blood Spires player.
Okay, yeah. Wow. I feel like you guys might have, a kindred spirit in orc players from Warhammer 40,000, because I feel like they roll so many shooting dice and just never land a thing. And you will never meet a salty orc player, and that is, I think, one of the most important things.
I think you cannot run a list made up of force-grown drones and be upset about missing attempts to hit.
Yeah.
On the we've got a really active WhatsApp group across London, and somebody commented the other day about how they enjoyed using a resolve spell from the Keres.
Oh yeah,
I think something that uses resolve, and that he'd only just noticed that force-grown drones have a resolve of 1. So, yeah, they basically have everything of 1.
Yeah. It's just
Like
their stat line looks like binary. Binary code.
They have a shield, and so it appears as if their defense is 2, but it's actually only 1. Yeah, everything is 1 for them. Yeah,
that's brilliant. I think I've got one more to add to the list. And this is actually another game I played against Josh. And I was fighting, I think it was my Household Knights had gone into your Praetorians with a Zodiac.
Yeah, that's the one.
And what was the weapon that your Zodiac had that meant you could just, you had got deadly blades or something like that?
Yeah,
right?
you give him the Gladiator upgrade.
Yes. So any rolls of 6s I made against him on the defense would cause 2 wounds. And so here I am, my Household Knights are going to get, I think they were already pretty battered by the unit or something.
Oh, well, actually, what was funny is the unit, I think, only did about 2 wounds to you, which then makes what the silly arc does even better.
Yeah. And that was like a 6-block of Praetorians, so they just did nothing. But so this flipping Ziliarch, which isn't even as killy as you could get him, the old Kiliarch. What is it, 7 attacks?
I think I only had 6 on him, and he was only Clash 3. Only Cleave 2.
Yeah, right, mate. But yeah, anyway, I had something like 6 defense rolls to make. And I rolled them all. And I got 4 6s. So instead of taking something like 5 wounds, it would have been, I ended up taking like 9. I was just like, this is just the worst, man. I just saw all those things. And you know what sometimes you do a roll and there's like a feeling you have inside where you're like, oh, I think I might spike this one. I think I might get a bunch of 1s. I had that feeling. And safe to say, I'm never trusting my gut ever again in a game of Conquest.
Well, what's worse is when you roll the dice I don't know if you get this. I roll them and I look at like one corner and I notice a couple of numbers and I immediately then think, that's a good roll, or, oh, that's really harsh. And when we were playing last, Josh, I think, I rolled some and in the corner that I was looking at, it was just 1s and 2s. And that's all it was in this corner. And I was like, hey, I'm happy with this.
Yes.
And I heard this little come from the other side of the table and just immediately thought, I haven't looked at the rest of them, have I? Yeah, that wasn't too good a roll, actually.
Man. I mean, it's funny that you try your best to, when you're designing a game, to limit the amount of RNG that makes a difference. But it's also just part of the fun, isn't it? Like sometimes you make a stupid roll where you shouldn't be able to make a 11-inch charge, but I rolled a 5 or a 6 and I was able to do it, right? And those are really like joyful moments. But I think, yeah, when you roll a bunch of 6s when you're not meant to, that is pretty brutal.
I had a great one at LGT where I think I needed to roll a 3 for a successful charge. And I didn't have a standard bearer because I was feeling a bit tight. And I was like, I only charge if it's like fairly good odds.
Yeah.
And so it was a 3 and I rolled a 1. And I was like, this sucks. But it's okay because at least next turn I can charge and I only need a 2. Next turn comes around. I'm like, I'm going for my charge again. Just need a 2. I rolled another 1. So for 2 turns in a row, this unit just charged 1 inch, stopped, did nothing else.
Oh, man.
And then third time, I want to say third time lucky, but it was guaranteed.
Yeah. It was like if you could have failed it, you would have. But
and you just highlighted there the importance of that rule that if you fail a charge, that's the end of your turn. And once you've done that once, that rule is then hard baked into you. You can't.
yeah. You'll never live that down in your own mind. I thought it might be a nice time to move on to our next question, which is, what is your play style? So I think each of us will have different play styles based on, how we think our army should work, what we should do with our units, and kind of are we more of a, I'm just going to point and shoot, or are we more of a, I'm going to sit this MSU or something, or an incredibly expensive Fallen Divinity on an objective just so I don't lose out on points. So yeah, maybe state your faction and then kind of what your play style is.
I play Spires.
Go for it.
I think there's a difference between the way I think about myself and the way that I then reveal myself in a game. So my general experience towards the end of a game is cursing myself inwardly for having placed a unit in a position where it now can't do anything at all.
Yeah, sure.
The number of times where I just have a set of force-grown drones just in the backfield, just moving, and they can't do anything, but just like going from one side to the other, and then that thing is finished now because it took me 3 turns to get over there. It's turning around and then coming all the way back. Yeah. That happens probably 2 out of 3 games for me. Yeah. So I think the way that I play is without thinking anything particularly through.
Yes, nice.
But the way that I like to think about myself is that I'm playing it for the long game.
Yeah,
so
right.
I enjoy being quite an annoying opponent.
Yeah.
And so I build the whole list basically around units that are extremely fast, and so I can just sit there so that it's just wigging you out. And they're not that threatening. When you actually think about it, like the Strix or the Abomination.
I hate your flipping Strix. I hate them so much.
They're just annoying.
Yeah.
They're not going to win the game, but they are really annoying to play against because you just think, it doesn't matter what I do.
No.
The Strix are going to get there like way faster than I can. And so I like having those ones. And then big blocks of force-grown drones that are going to regenerate.
Yeah.
And then, going to get some healing stuff. And then you're going to buff them up so they're acting like men-at-arms when they have no right to at all. Yeah. I think that's a pretty solid strategy. I'm just not clever enough to do it that way.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt here because I want to talk about how much I hate the Strix. Okay. I'm just going to tell you a little anecdote about a game me and Sam played maybe a year ago. I think it might have been one of the first times I was facing. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So we played this game and I'm thinking like, Sam's got his Strix coming up. I want to get my block of militia who have the fierce priest in there to jump up in your face and to throw a bunch of fire before you can hit me with all that lethal demise, right? I think, right, I'm just going to run them up, absolutely bolt them up the table. So I can't remember exactly what happens, but I think you realise at one point that because of fly, which is the rule the Strix have, is it called fly?
Yeah.
where you basically can fly over any terrain you want, and you can fly over whatever regiments you want. That you chose to do the latter. And you just flew behind my militia and just landed behind them and then like attacked something else or something. And I was just like, this is the most annoying situation that I've ever been in. Because I then have to turn my militia around and start like attacking you. And I had to get the crossbowmen. The crossbowmen were attacked. So they weren't able to shoot anyone. And then so along on that side, your incarnate sentinels are like jogging their way up that side of the table. And I'm just here, fighting with these pigeons.
Yes.
So yeah, that was pretty rough.
That is the strict. I think that was only the second time that I properly ran them. And the first time I only had a set of 3 stands. And you had used a theist priest to just burn them before they'd done anything.
Yep.
So I was thinking, here's this fun new unit. Push them up, take them off the table.
Yeah. I think I did that too once.
So I think but again, like this comes back to, I don't particularly think through what I'm doing. And so what I was thinking there wasn't this clever, I can make all of your units reform and end up you playing your own game 6 inches from your own reinforcement line.
Yes.
It was more, I just don't want to be in the theist priest's line of sight. So if I go behind, that's
well, mate, it won you the game. That was a really good game.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Right, you're welcome. Thanks, man. Josh, mate, what about you? I know you play a couple armies at the moment, but feel free to pick one.
Well, I'm
of
like
them,
a
we can
kind
circle
of
back
a
if we need
Nords
to.
deserter, which I'm a bit embarrassed to say. So I've been playing Nords like fairly solidly for the last 2 years, and then I've recently been swayed by the Old Dominion.
There aren't many Nords players left, are there, it seems, in London?
To be honest, the first LGT I was the only Nords player, and then the second one there was one other guy. But yeah, there doesn't feel like there's many Nords players, which
Very
is
nicely painted army. Shout out to Rob.
Oh yeah, that was an awesome painted army.
He got like pupils on the eyes.
Yes, inside a skull mask. I was like, what? Yeah.
I think basically the only reason he didn't basically win the competition was the fact he had like one unpainted regiment.
Oh, gutted.
Otherwise, it definitely would have been him. But yeah, so I've played Nords for a long time, and I've played them in a slightly weird way. Because I haven't really played any other war games, so I don't really have that much perspective. I've played them as like a bit of a weird like hammer and anvil army, and then I've used their kind of like speed to try and like get up the board fast.
Yeah.
And so what worked really well for me at LGT, the first one, was again like by having the blooded as the warlord that time, you got flank, which was like a massive advantage on units. And so I had this big block of trolls, which at the time trolls were 2 wounds per model. So I had 6 stands of trolls with then a blooded with it. Which meant to break the trolls, you had to kill 4 stands, which was 32 wounds. And I remember in like one of my games, 100 Kingdoms player charged and clashed and did like 28 wounds.
And then you healed back 6.
And then I healed a bunch back, but he was like, wait, you're not even broken? I was like, yeah, I'm not even broken. Although what partly helped that was I also that tournament ran like a block of housecarls, which like they're all right, but what made them really good was having a Kungengir in them who gave this bubble of resolve 6 to everything around.
Yes.
So I had these trolls that had a low defense, but they just took nothing on resolve.
Oh man! And so you were basically playing Old Dominion before you actually started playing Old Dominion.
And so that was great. And so I had these like this big block of housecarls and this big block of trolls, and I'd try and like run them up, sit them on objectives, and then I like ran like 2 mountain Jotnars, and I was like guaranteed 1 on turn 3 because of flank, and then I was running them up to kind of like assist and like support these anvils, and that worked pretty well. Other than most games felt fairly easy, other than James in the final. Who finally managed to break my anvils. But that was great. But then, unfortunately, after LGT1, they changed the trolls.
Yeah.
They changed a lot of the things I did with the Kunning gear, so I couldn't give them combat 3 and tactical anymore to give the resolve bubble, and so I had to kind of go back to the drawing board. And so this year I tried to do a similar tactic, but using the Shaman and the Vanguard ability.
Yeah.
So I think most people I played against were very surprised that I was Nords and I didn't run a single light unit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
right,
was crazy.
And
Because you ran your Raiders as medium, right?
I ran my Raiders as medium, so I could just kind of sit them on an objective. Like I didn't really want to get them or my Warlord involved in any fights. And so again, I had this kind of 2 big anvils of a big block of Trolls and a big block of Valkyries. And the idea was run them up the battlefield, sit them on an objective, which with Vanguard, I mean, by turn 2, often I could be on an objective, but sometimes took me till turn 3, but I'm properly sitting on the objective. And then the idea was have these anvils hold. Again, I've got like Mountain Jotnars, like doing like 21 inches up the board, turn 3. But what I learned quite quickly in my first game against James was my anvils were not as strong as I thought they were.
Oh, no.
So it got to turn 3 and I sat both my anvils on the 2 objectives. I had like my Trolls right at the like edge of the objective so he couldn't like contest me on it. I had my Valkyries right at the like top of the objective so I couldn't be contested on that one. And I'm like starting turn 4, like, man, I've got these objectives locked down. I've got Jotnars running up the board. I was feeling a bit confident. And then I just saw my anvils melt like butter. And I was like, okay, well, this is not going to be a good tournament. I think my Trolls...
Was that the Thunder Riders that were melting them more?
So I had the Valkyries, this is where I had my real unlucky roll in the side. And I had these like fanatics that meant they were kind of so far away I wasn't super worried. And then they could like move, charge, or like move, charge, clash, which sucked.
The extra action or whatever they get.
And then, it was the Thunder Riders that charged my Trolls. I mean, this is a 6 block of Trolls that the previous tournament was unkillable. And this tournament just straight wiped out by Thunder Riders. Like, Thunder Riders have got, what was it, trample? Is that the new thing?
Yeah.
They didn't even survive to the trample. They died before the trample even happened.
Wow. Because isn't trample like guaranteed hits or something?
At the end of the turn.
But those guaranteed hits weren't needed. I just died. So that was kind of, that's how I've played Nords. I've tried to use their speed to like run these anvils up the board and then kind of support them. And it has worked for me and it's not worked for me. But now I've kind of like defected to Old Dominion. And to be honest, I lose with them a lot, but I love the Fallen Divinity.
Oh, she's so
I like the last game I played against you, Josh. I mean, lost it horrifically on points, but at the end of the game, there's just a Fallen Divinity on the board.
Everything was dead. I racked up the points.
It was 36-18, so I was like destroyed on points, but it was just satisfying just seeing this like wholly untouched full health divinity just sitting alone on the board.
I don't think I did a single point of damage to it that whole game.
You did a few and then it's like, oh no, I level up and I just remove that dice.
It's not just the wounds increase, you also heal as you level up, which is just amazing.
But that's me and my Nord story. Maybe I'll fall in love with them once again, but for the moment, Old Dominion all the way.
So for me, Sam was that one guy from the starter set with the spies, and then I took one look at the 100 Kingdoms and I was like, those are going to be my boys. And so I think I shared that starter set with you. Or maybe I didn't actually. I think you found me a deal on Facebook or something. And you ended up buying some.
You definitely did. I mean, I've ended up with 3 starter sets.
Yeah.
So I think you ended up with some of them.
Yeah. So I think just by proxy I have.
Because 2 abominations isn't enough, really.
No.
You haven't properly run spies until you run a 3 abomination list.
The 3 A-bomb list is a big list. So I play 100 Kingdoms. I think I have a love for history. So I think there's not too much in terms of aliens from different planets using biomancies and all of that kind of fits into history. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
you've been listening to the wrong podcast.
It depends if you've got opinions about how the pyramids were built or not. But I love medieval history. I think it's really cool. I did the same thing you did, Sam, and I saw those knights, and I was just like, oh yeah. So I think I love playing them for that. I love the idea of just basic dudes like rocking up with, you know, swords and boards and just, you know, praying to whatever god they may believe in that this horrific abomination doesn't rip them to shreds alongside all of their mates. I think there's something really cool about that. You know, it's like these men at arms, they're holding the line, and then like in comes the knights. They come in with their side charge, and oh yeah, it's great. I love it. And I think there's a real kid in me that I think is a big fan. In terms of the tabletop, they also fit quite well for me because I think the way I play, I just don't like thinking. I don't want to think. Do you know what I mean? And I think with like Wadroon and like spies, I have to think about where I put stuff and like where I'm going to get my chanting off, or, you know, can I get this biomancy off, or I need to draw cards into other cards. And I'm just like, my brain already hurts. Do you know what I mean? And I just want to throw my horses into a line of infantry and just have a great time. So I think, you know, it's been said before, but all the complexity of the army comes in the list building, right? So you build a list, it's got lots of stuff in it, it's got lots of upgrades. You know, you've got your Imperial officer with removing everyone's cleave and, you know, making everyone, especially Nords players, hate you.
When you removed my cleave as a Nords player,
oh man,
oh, that was so horrible. So horrible.
Yeah.
As a Spires player, of course, you say that you remove all the cleave, and I think, well, that was 20 points you wasted.
Yeah. I know, it's 40. It's 40.
Yeah. That's more than a standard force-grown drones.
Yeah, oh man. But yeah, so, you know, I just draw my cards, I put my card stack up. I'm like, you know what? I want these Steel Legion to go first because they are glass cannony enough that they will die if they don't activate first. And they will also simultaneously wipe out the regiment they're in contact with if they activate first. So that's where they're going. And yeah, I think I've had great fun. I've won a lot, lost a lot. Probably a bit more than I've won. But I think, you know, you just have a great time. And you know what? I feel like LGT, I was the only... Sorry, this is London Grand Tournament, by the way, for anyone listening. This is, you know, the biggest wargaming tournament in Britain, I think. And obviously there was a Conquest section, which is really cool, amongst the legions of 40k players. And yeah, I was the only 100 Kingdoms player there. And I was only there for the second day, actually. But I just find... you know what? Actually, one of my favourite moments was when Stavros came up to me at the end and was just like, this is Stavros from Parabellum War Games. He came up and he was like, thank you for playing 100 Kingdoms. And I'm like, you're welcome, because no one else wants to play these guys. Because we are kind of boring right now. But no, I love them. And I think some of the models have been awesome as well. Like the Order of the Crimson Tower, easily my favourite models in Conquest. I think they are just so cool.
Is that, what do you even call it? Morning Star?
Yeah.
Nice on a chain.
Oh, brutal, isn't it? Oh, love it.
It just looks... I'm so much more intimidated by the Order of the Crimson Tower than I am of any other unit.
Right.
I don't even know if I ought to be. This is the problem. You know, when I see it, it just looks so scary.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to do something about it. It's like seeing the Abomination, I suppose.
Yeah.
You see it and you're like, oh, I've got to do something about that. And then you overcome it. So,
oh, man.
Yeah, the models are good.
What I love about it in the lore as well is they're actually, out of all the orders in the 100 Kingdoms, they are like the most honourable ones. So they basically are all about not trying to do any harm to innocent people. So they won't join your army as a mercenary group unless you agree to do no looting. Now, of course, for an army in Aya, the way you pay your soldiers is by looting cities, right? But obviously these guys are saying no. So you're having to pay for them, and then also you have to pay your soldiers. So that is like... So I think that's pretty cool. But then they're just these absolutely brutal looking knights, just with like bits of metal sticking out of their sides, and they've literally got a suit of armor on their banner. I'm just like, that is crazy. That is crazy.
So that's it. When you manage to get that charge in and you wipe out a unit, not only do you get to celebrate all of those low numbers that you've rolled, also holds the moral high ground.
100%.
Yeah.
You bring. This is what I always say. You bring Crimson Tower. You bring the morals high ground. Cool. I think on that note, I think we're good for episode 1. So thank you for listening. We have been joshing around in air. We are on all available platforms, at least most of them, I think. We have an Instagram. We have a Twitter. We actually don't yet.
We've got an email address.
Oh, we've got an email address. We have an email address. Sam, what's the email address?
The email address, careful, take some time to write this down because it's a bit difficult to remember. The email address is joshingaroundinair@gmail.com.
Sorry, can you just say that one more time? I don't think I quite got that.
Joshing around. Shall I spell it?
Yes. J-O.
Joshing around in air @gmail.com.
Amazing. Thank you, Sam. And thank you for listening. Goodbye.
See you later.